Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Sarcastic Barman, and welcome to my channel. Hopefully you've all had a chance to check out See You Next Tuesday, my nice new little live stream produced by Colon the Magnificent. If not, go check it out. Apparently it was really good, even though I'm recording this before it's even gone out. But Conspiracy Cats should be joining us, or should have joined us. So yeah, it should be a good show. But for this week's video on this night, we're looking at Mudflood, the most stupidest thing next to the stupidness of stupid fucking flat earthers. Yeah, let's roll the fucking intro.
Hello, Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having a fabulous day. And of course, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and in these crazy times we find us, we all need to be self-educated, because if we're not, the only choice we have left is to believe what other people tell us.
Now, I am a big advocate for self-education, and it is important you get as much information as you can. But what's really important is the sources of these information. And you've got to make sure you've got some basic understanding of shit before you go and look at other people's stupid shit, and then just take in their stupid shit without realising that it's fucking stupid. Like it seems you're going to fucking do in this.
And when you look around the world, it becomes plainly obvious that the people speaking the loudest are telling us things that are not exactly true.
Well, your video is quite loud. I've had to adjust the sound on it, so are we going to take any sort of evidence from that?
And so today I wanted to have a look at some mud floodage. Bit of evidence that there was a huge devastation around the world. As far as we can tell, around the sort of 1500s, maybe 1600s.
So somewhere over a period of around 300 years, a huge catastrophic event happened that covered a huge amount of the world with a mud flood, which seems to also defy the laws of physics on how mud would work, because you think valleys and things would fill up. But no, mud flood's special because it covers everything equally, so whether you're on the top of a hill or a bottom of a hill, you've still had mud flood shit.
And what we're looking at here in front of us, this is actually the Louvre. So this is Paris in France.
Yep, it's the Grand Gallery of the Louvre, built between 1595 and 1610 for anyone who wants to know. And the big building you can see in the back right is Notre Dame. Isn't that nice?
And you can see a massively oversized building. These are people.
Massively oversized compared to what? It was built as a palace. And I don't think palaces have got a reputation for being small conservative buildings, really.
You can see it's mud flooded as well. We've got windows here going straight into the ground.
Hang on. You think that because it's got windows for basically the basement, it's mud flooded? Okay, the logic on that is stupendously fucking stupid to start with. So we've got our nice picture here. Fuck's sake. Our nice picture here of literally just up along the Grand Gallery. So that's Point de Lion, or the Archway of the Lions or whatever. And as you can see, it's a nice archway for people to walk through. Now in your world, that archway would then have to have been on the first floor. Not the ground floor, the first floor. Because as you can see at the edges, you've got the windows for the basement. So why the fuck did they then build a fucking archway for people to walk through on the first floor? The logic of that is fucking stupid. I mean, really fucking stupid. You'd have to have a lack of 2 brain cells to not realise how fucking stupid that fucking is. And you'd also have to not look into any sort of understanding on how buildings were built, digging out for foundations and all that shit, and making the most of the space they've had to dig out by incorporating extra rooms. Just no. And your first statement in the entire video was that mud flood happened somewhere between the 14th, 15th, 1600s. We don't know when. Well, if this building's been mud flooded, it would have had to have happened after 1610. Because that's when the building was built. So then you'd have a fucking timescale, you moron. Jesus Christ.
But this bank, look at this bank. So this is a man-made canal. You know, they've got this bridge.
No, that's not a canal. It's a fucking river. It's the fucking saying. It's the 5th largest river in France. It runs a total of 775 kilometres. It's a... No! How fucking stupid are you? This is ridiculous. I mean, to start with, why would you build a canal that goes round and like this? You just go, no, canal straight. Like all fucking canals are basically built in nice straight lines with no elevation and with locks and that sort of shit. And if you're going to say, oh no, it's a man-made river and they've cut it like this. No, just fucking no one in their right minds is going to dig a 775 fucking kilometre long river. Or canal as you want to call it. You fucking numpty you are.
Stone bridge they've built over it. Then they've got this other wood bridge in front. Massive build out in the background.
Hang on. You're surprised that a capital city of a major European power in the 1660s, 1670s looks rather built up. It's got a population of around 500,000 people. You're also looking at the little island up there called the Cité de Ile de Cité. Yeah, that's right. Which was the heartland of Paris to start with. This was when you see things like the Vikings and they're going to raid Paris. That was what they were raiding, the little fucking island there. The one that now has the Notre Dame fucking cathedral on it, which you can fucking see. Dickhead.
But what, they couldn't do the edges of this canal because this is clearly a man-made canal. So that to me looks like a bit of evidence of the mud flood.
How is a riverbank evidence of mud flood? No, a river that floods. I mean, surely the fact that the river's not up to the very top should be evidence that it's a fucking river and it's not controlled or anything like that. Because if it was a canal, you could fill it to a couple of inches above where you want it and then have sluice gates and things like that to let the excess water out. But when it's a river and all those tributaries are feeding into it, there's not that much control and the river level's going to rise and fall. It's as if you don't understand fucking anything.
Maybe that, you know, they just haven't had a chance to clean that out yet. But again, look at this build out of this city. So this is France and this is 16, well it doesn't say 1600s, let's go halfway, about 1650s.
Well, hang on, we're going to have to do some actual history numbers and things here just to clear out how stupid you are. Now, we know the Louvre was built and finished by 1610. So, if it's mud flooded on the what you think is the ground floor, the mud flood must have happened after 1610 for that to be the case. Now, the bridge that you see, it was built in 1634. Now, that comes up to the height that you would expect after the mud flood. So then the mud flood must have happened at some point between 1634 and 1610. So that gives us a nice, 24-year window for this happening? Brilliant. But then we've got the bridge in the background that connects the Ile de Cité to the rest of Paris, which also comes to the same height. Now, the only problem with that is it was built in 1607, so before the Louvre was finished. So how does your mud flood work that bit out, that they just built the bridge at just the right height to be above the mud flood, but it was before the mud flood happened, because otherwise the Louvre wouldn't have been buried and they would have done it on purpose? And it just shows you don't actually think about things and that mud flood makes no fucking sense.
Paris, France, completely built out with castles, spires, rock bridges, the whole lot, and looks like a bit of mud floodage. So let's jump in and have a look at some more evidence of inundation.
What do you mean, more evidence? You haven't presented any evidence as yet. You have no idea when the mud flood is, even though we've got buildings that, based on when you think the mud flood is, we could isolate that the mud flood must have been after these buildings are built. But for you, that just doesn't seem to click any bells. What you're showing actually disproves a mud flood.
And here's a shot to start with. This is from 1870. Not exactly sure where it is, but it does say bastion up here, so it looks like they're saying this is part of a fort.
Right, you do know that you can search for an image on Google and try and track it down more, don't you? And any little bit of tracking would lead you to that being 1870 Strasbourg after the Franco-Prussian War, during the Franco-Prussian War, after Strasbourg received over 47,000 shells. Hence the fucking devastation.
And as you can see, archways, look at this, archways, way down. You can see the size of these people here. This guy's standing up. So what do we got? Sort of 1, 2, 2.5 for him. So what's that, 20 foot or something? No, 15, 16 feet under the ground, these arches.
Strange that, isn't it? Building arches underground to hold up the fucking dirt above it, especially on a fucking fort. A fort, you can see the size of the fucking walls around it. Would you think that everything else was dug out, then the wall was there, and then the stuff put on top? How does your brain work with this logic?
Just completely inundated. You can see this. See, this looks like a wall that's been faced.
What? It is a faced wall. You can see the fucking brickwork on the other side of the fucking wall. Do you not know what a star fort is? Do you not understand the evolution of military fortifications over time and how artillery practices changed, that they had to be built the way they were built, more towards underground reinforcements rather than direct lines of sight because of cannon warfare, which later became artillery and shit like that, and how you'd have a trench around the outside of them to funnel people to kill zones? I'm guessing not. Just actually, do you have any understanding of the evolution of fucking architecture? I mean, Jesus, no.
And across here as well. And here we have this corner, still with the bricks, and that's very Star Forty, that way that corner's built.
Hang on, you're pointing out it's a star fort? So why is you making this video including this bit anyway? If you know it's a star fort, you should understand that star forts are not built on top of the ground. They are built below the site level, or at worst, having bankments up all the way around it to stop cannon fire. What?
Brick, you can see this is all brick construction. Of course, the big tower here that's been destroyed, with huge doorways going into basically what is now underground, but what used to be part of this star.
Now hang on a minute, you've mentioned star forts, so surely you've got the understanding that they weren't built on top of a fucking hill overlooking everything, where everything can be seen, and they were usually built at ground or below ground level to stop direct artillery fire. Okay, so that doorway would make fucking sense, wouldn't it? Yes. We also established from your last clip about the Louvre that the mud flood must have taken place sometime after the Louvre was built, but before the bridge was built, because otherwise they would have come to the wrong height. So there's that. So that's pre-1634 at the latest, really. But your problem is that the fort you're looking at, or the bastion you're looking at, wasn't built until 1682. That doesn't make any sense for you, really, does it? That would really fuck up everything. That would mean the flood for the mud would have had to have been after 1682. Now, the fort construction wasn't finished until 1685, so you're really going to have to push your mud flood after 1685. But then that makes no sense on the Louvre unless the mud flood didn't happen everywhere at the same time. The mud flood makes no sense.
And it looks like they may have dug all this stuff out of here with their little shovels, so they're definitely working hard. These guys look like they're actually posing for a music video. And look at this tower in the background. Looks like the glass has been blown out of it. And these trees, see how they're all dead.
You do remember this picture was taken to show the damage after the siege of Strasbourg. So yes, trees dead, explosions just gone all near them, hence the devastation around it, hence why they might have had to dig out that fucking doorway and all that rubble is there. These are things that are understood. As for the bell tower, the glass being blown out of it, maybe, or maybe it's just got a really clear view through the picture because it's not stained glass in that fucking building. For anyone who wants to know, Strasbourg Cathedral, built in 1647 and was the tallest building for 227 years.
Now, what would happen? I mean, you can almost see the layer there, can't you? The top of the roof of whatever this was, this fort. But these trees, I'd say they've been buried. You know, so the normal base would be down here, and then they've been buried by mud. And when that happens, basically they start to rot and stuff, and it kills the tree.
It's been buried by mud. That's your idea on this. Not that it was a fort that was built and trees grew on top, because by this point the fort was getting on for almost 200 years old, so that's understandable. Not the fact it's just suffered a humongous artillery barrage or anything like that that will just rule that shit straight out. Just what the fuck, dude? Seriously. Have you thought logically through this whole mud flood thing as well? You have to remember that Strasbourg sits a height of around 390, 400 feet above sea level. Paris sits about 75 foot above sea level. So for an entire worldwide mud flood, why is it not flow down and cover Paris more? You know, this thing we have called gravity that's going to pull things down and everything's going to try and settle at a point. Instead, it's going to be on like a hill and it's going to come. You don't think these things through, do you?
So that's why they're all dead. And here we have a book. This is from 1615. Illustrations of something. I'm pretty sure it's Travels of the Holy Land. Let's have a look. Discoveries in Jerusalem. Antique, modern, Palestine. There we go. I didn't know it was called Palestine back then. And here we have our, of course, apparently religious people with their crosses and all their symbolism, the twin towers here, twin pillars, and even little Pope hat.
What, you didn't know the area of Palestine was called Palestine? Palestine's been mentioned in the Bible since about the 5th century BC. So, your research skills are appalling. They are absolutely appalling.
And just everything, you know, that we see everywhere. Anchors, the 3 fleur-de-lis, up here again, the crown, the wreaths. Always the same.
My God, a book published in a Catholic country ruled by a king? How surprising it is that it's got representations of those two things on it. You're hurting my brain. You're really hurting my brain. I need wine.
Alright, so this is a map that we're given. Look at all the fleur-de-lis everywhere. And you can just see this is just a big, massive, walled city. And look at this. Actually, this may be Egypt. Mediterranean, Rama. Okay, so I think this actually is Egypt.
No, I think what you've got is just an artistized fucking picture of the area. So you've got the Mediterranean Sea in front. If you look at the back, you've got M. Mort, so that would be the Dead Sea. The one on the other side of it is the Sea of Galilee. The city next to it is City of Tiberias. So no, it's just an artist-sized, silly, picture-y thing. And yeah, they might have thrown a fucking pyramid in it. Does it matter? It's not an actual detailed visual representation of fucking anything.
And that's why we have a pyramid in there. This is some fancy man with his big hat and fleur-de-lis everywhere. He's got his Knights of Malta cross on.
Hang on, is this book going to mention anything about mud flood, or are you just going to look at it weirdly and go, look, fleur-de-lis, look, things? Because that's not good for what you need. And also, I translated the first bit of the map you were looking at. Where did it go? Let's go to Palestine to warm the Argentinian moon and plant the Dorex lilies in those places that nature made them, born in culture to be adored every day. Now, it's a very rough translation. It's literally just using Google, and I can't decide if they were F's or S's on some of those words. At one point, it's, let's go to Palestine to shaft the Argentinian moon, which I found hilariously funny.
Several days later.
Now, the rest of your video seems to simply be going through the same exact book, looking at the pictures going, ooh, look, dome. Ooh, look, something sticking out. Ooh, look how big this aqueduct is. Yes, and aqueducts be damn old, especially like the ones in Italy and round areas in the Mediterranean, because of those people, the ones that never did anything for us. Oh yeah, the Romans, apart from obviously the aqueducts and the wine and the order and the roads. Can't forget the roads. Yeah, you know the rest of the fucking joke. So I think we're actually just going to bin your video off at this point, because you've given me enough of a headache to put up with for the rest of the night that I don't think I've got enough wine to sort it out. And that's a scary thought for a barman, that you fucked my brain that much by your completely and utterly stupidness that I just can't deal. I mean, we don't know when the mud flood is, but obviously it's older than this building. But you're just going to say that I'm lying about when that building was built, even though there'll be documentation on when the building was built. Artists will have been paid for doing the work on the building, and more than likely there'll be records of some description of those artists. This is the 1630s. This isn't like the 1200s or something. Oh, there are some documents from there too. I mean, I used to live next door to a castle that was built in the early 1400s. Yeah, I can't remember when Conway Castle was built. Very sorry. But there is documentation and letters about that being fucking built. I mean, no. The mud flood is the most stupid thing, because people don't understand that basements are a thing. I mean, you look at my pub. My pub has a cellar. Anyone says, oh, well, that's no good. That was the mud flood then, and then the thing. Yeah, but my pub also used to be a mill. So for you to say the cellar was the ground floor, that meant the mill wheel was halfway up the fucking pub. That doesn't work. That really doesn't work for any of this. It's just, you are stupid. Please learn fucking something. Go and do some fucking self-education. The first thing you mention in this, and yet you do fucking none of it. You've not even worked out the dates and anything like that. You don't even know when you think the mud flood is, just over this 300-year period, but everything points to it never, ever fucking happening. And just, oh, my brain. My absolute brain. I'm done. Go enjoy the next video. Hopefully I've timed this roughly enough so you don't have to hang about for too long, or just enough that you can have a wee and a drink. Hey, thank you very much, everyone. I've been the Sarcastic Barman. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe down below. Thank you to all my Patreons, all my members, and just all of you for subscribing and watching my stuff. Though it turns out about 20% of my viewers over the last 28 days aren't subscribed. How rude. I'm a